Hello and welcome to UK Gaming Network. I'm Zoidberg and this is our look at the best games released during January 2018. It's been a strange month with only 2 out of the 20 brand new titles that we played having been released in the first half of the month, making the last 2 weeks very crowded indeed. The Switch has also continued to thrive, with more re-releases of great games including Fury, Darkest Dungeon, The Escapist 2, World to the West and Super Meat Boy all making their debut on the Nintendo machine. Coming up, we'll highlight which were our favourite new releases of the last 31 days, and follow it up with our pick for Game of the Month. What will it be? Keep watching to find out. As ever, early access, alphas and betas are not included. On paper, Never Stop Sneaking sounds terrible. It's a simplified stealth game and parody of Metal Gear Solid, with all control removed from the player apart from movement. Yet somehow it works, and Humble Hearts have managed to make a clever, genuinely funny and massively enjoyable release. It must be said that the first couple of hours are largely challenge free if you've ever played a stealth game before, but thankfully it's never dull thanks to the well designed levels and interesting boss fights. There are some frankly ridiculous costumes and weapons to unlock, but this is a game that doesn't just have a sense of its own stupidity, it positively revels in it. The campaign is longer than most full price releases too, so it's well worth the £11 asking price. Full Metal Furies is an action brawler that should easily appeal to anyone who loved castle crashers, although once you start playing you'll realise that they're actually quite different. This is down to the unique abilities of the 4 available characters that make teamwork essential. Celador Games' previous release was the fantastic Rogue Legacy, and they've definitely brought some of what they learnt from that game into this one. The way the skill tree works in particular is very similar. Unfortunately, it also has some of its faults too, and this is a game that gets easier the more you unlock, meaning that the difficulty of the early stages could put off a large chunk of the game's audience. That's not to say it's ever easy. Whether you're playing solo or with friends, it remains a constant challenge throughout. It's been a very retro-themed month, and nowhere is that typified more than the fantastic Iconoclasts. With its beautiful pixel art and toe-tapping chiptunes, this is a title that would have been perfectly at home in the 16-bit era. In purely gameplay terms, this would be an easy game to recommend, with its easy-to-grasp mechanics, large well-designed levels, and frequent brilliant boss fights, of which there are over 20. But what elevates it to essential status is the story. This features the kind of grown-up tale usually reserved for AAA releases, filled with well-written and interesting characters. There will be no spoilers here, but it packs an emotional kick that you simply wouldn't expect. If there's any justice, this is a game that will still be mentioned as an indie classic years from now. There's a loading screen message in Celeste that states collecting all of the hidden strawberries is not essential. But let's face it, the kind of player that this game is aimed at will make sure that they find them all. My first completion of the opening level in this excellent new Twitch platformer from the makers of Towerfall ended with 58 deaths, having gathered only 2 of them. The controls and level design are so precise though that every single death was my own fault, and I will definitely be going back to improve my performance. Throughout the levels there's a constant stream of new ideas that will require you to think differently, and it stops the game from ever getting boring, no matter how infuriated you become. There's even an assist mode included to help newcomers by slowing the game down, or providing infinite boosts, but please don't use it or you'll ruin the experience. Dragonball FighterZ is equal parts brilliant and annoying. The fighting itself is fast, simple to grasp and truly spectacular to look at, with its awesome special attacks, some of which can do over 9,000 units of damage. Whether you got that reference or not, there's much here to enjoy, although if you don't know your Goku from your Piccolo, you'll be spending a lot of time skipping cutscenes between bouts, as none of the story will make a lick of sense. Away from the story mode, you'll spend most of your time playing the excellent arcade mode, which utilises an Outrun-style branching path that rewards better performance and does a great job of encouraging that all-important one more go. In terms of multiplayer, there's the expected online and local versus matches, although we found the online servers on the Xbox to be a little bit inconsistent. In Japan, the release of a new Monster Hunter is greeted with the same fanfare that Call of Duty used to receive here, and yet some series entries have never even made it to our stores. World is Capcom's first mainstream entry, and has been marketed as a more accessible game for newcomers. That's certainly true, but thankfully it's not at the expense of alienating long-term fans. With 14 different weapon types to try out, everyone will find a style that suits them, but ultimately this is a game that rewards you for putting in the hours, and having patience. The brilliant crafting system is as in-depth as ever, although there's an auto-craft option to simplify it, so that equipment is made as soon as you collect the right ingredients. However, it's the spectacular monsters that you're here for, and they certainly don't disappoint, with the designers having come up with some wonderful creations to inhabit this fantastic looking world. Taking them down is one of the most satisfying feats in gaming. That's it for another great month. Let us know what games you think we missed in the comments, and we'll be back in 4 short weeks for our February roundup. In the meantime, why not head over to our Facebook page for details on how you could win a copy of Far Cry 5 in our Winter Olympics competition. Like and subscribe for more great videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.